Welcome to the PT Legends podcast, where co-host Dave Bess and myself, Scott Carpenter, share our journey and secrets of success. From our humble beginnings as personal training employees of a big box gym to struggling studio owners that have made every mistake in the book, to where we are now, the owners of a multi-seven-figure business operating multiple personal training studios internationally, and now coach and mentor to fitness professionals in 5 countries and counting. This is our story, and these are our secrets. Subscribe to our podcast, learn, take action, and build your own fitness empire. Welcome back to the PT Legends show. I'm your host, Scott Carpenter, rocking it without the big man, Dave, this time. But I have a very special guest on this episode. We're going to talk about how to use a podcast to create authority in your space, where it can attract customers to you. You can double up and also act as an amazing media machine. So my special guest today is Scott Rammage. He's an amazing friend of mine. We've known each other for maybe a little over a couple of years, but gotten really close. He also runs VAs for gyms, which I know a lot of the listeners you actually use. We have been using them for quite a long time as well. They save us a ton of time, and recently has a new offshoot as well, Podcast Media Machine, where he basically coaches you and helps you create your podcast. It's a done for you solution to do exactly what you needed to do with your business. So welcome, Scott. Love to have you on.
Thanks, Scott. You just dropped the mic. You just basically said
podcast is over.
We're done. We're done. No, dude, it's so exciting to be on a podcast with a good friend. And I mean, we were with each other last week in San Diego, and I've just spent the last 2 years kind of getting to know you. We met up just a little over a year ago in Arizona and birthed a lot of ideas, and here we are now. It's awesome to be here.
Holy cow, was that Arizona? Yeah, Arizona was not even that much longer than a year ago.
It's 14 months ago, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe the evolution that we've had in our businesses and ourselves in 14 months.
VAs for gyms was, oh my gosh, it was brand new, maybe a couple months old. And PT Legends was, God, where were you at that point? It was pretty new. I hadn't even met Dave yet. And I'm sad Dave's not here because I really like Dave too. But whatever.
Yeah, I think we had just taken on like 2 or 3 gym owners who had asked us, hey, can you help us with this? And I'm like, sure. I'm like, Dave, let's help them with this, because I mean, it's crushed our business. And so I don't even know if we had like a name or a logo or was a business at that point.
I don't think so. But here's the thing is you and Josh and I and Dave, we winged it. We were winging it back then and created incredible systems, which is awesome. And I know you guys are just helping everybody crush it that comes to you. I know personally so many of your clients that reach out to me independently and like, this has been the most amazing thing. So
that's awesome to hear.
It's so fun. It's so fun. I mean, Shannon Logan, Matt Chenard, Carl Nieholt. I mean, all these people. I mean, I probably could just keep going and going and going. It's really fun to have that crossover of some of our clients too.
Yeah,
like, we're solving problems, and for me, that's what makes my heart happy.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, because you were a box owner in your past too. Yes, so you know that space very well. You know how hard it can be. And you know how many hats you have to wear and all the things that you have to do. And typically what happens for all of us gym owners is just shit falls off the plate and we don't get to it. We can't. And so when you had just started launching VAs for gyms, that's when like we hopped on with you.
Yeah.
And we would not have gotten a fraction of the work done if it weren't for you guys, because I don't even know where to begin, guys. They do a whole heck of a lot and have saved us a lot of time. And I know we're going to focus today on kind of a new offshoot that you've had, Podcast Media Machine.
Yeah.
And so can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, that's the beauty of this. Like Josh just reminded me, Josh is my business partner, by the way, for those of you who might not know. He just reminded me the other day. He's like, Scott, the VAs for gyms, we have a business because of podcasts. So I started a podcast with Josh called Brotherhood of Fatherhood. And I was working at another company, a fitness brand, loved it, was super busy doing that. And I started this podcast. I'm like, what the hell? There's so much work in doing a podcast. I don't want to stop. I don't want to be one of those people that started and stopped, because that is the story. People start and they're like, whoa, this is a lot of work. I love it, but I can't do it. So created a system using overseas person, and it was phenomenal. And then talking actually with Carl and a few other guys that I mentioned earlier, Carl Nieholt, and they're like, Scott, like you keep talking about having a VA, but I've tried it and it sucks, and I don't want to do that again. Can I just use yours? Because you found, the golden pony, you found the unicorn. I'm like, no. Like, no, that's my unicorn. She's doing like 40 hours a week for me, freeing up my plate so I actually have a life. And enough prodding, it was like the big ding, ding, ding moment. And I go to Josh, I said, I think we just kind of fell into a business. He's like, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I've figured out how to leverage, this workforce. And at that point, I think we had 3 VAs for us. And I'm like, I figured out how to do this. And gym owners, think about it, Josh. When we had our gyms, he still had his. When I had my gym, if I could have given the reports and social media and all these things over to them, I would have been able to be more focused and focus on making sales and being the mayor of my gym. I don't like that term anymore, but being the person that was more in my sweet spot. And he's like, you're right. We have a business. And as almost any business goes, you just kind of start going from there and building as you go. And I just really focused that whole process around what was it like when I was a gym owner, all the things that fell through just because I was trying to tread water. And so it actually was born from needing podcast help, which is really cool. And in the process, we built what I call, and I stole this term, by the way, what I call a media machine. And a media machine is you do a little bit of work, because any machine is going to create something, right? So I'm going to do a little bit of work and it's going to create a ton of output. So I equate it to like, you take an hour of your time and you throw that into a bucket, and it's going to give you massive output and save you hundreds of hours. And
I think what comes to mind is like, Gary Vee was like teaching this strategy years ago.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's just like, how is he everywhere and all these things? And he's got quote cards and he's got video snips. He's got long term. He's got short form. It's everywhere on all these platforms. It's the Gary Vee strategy, right? It's like you create like one thing, and then from that, you get like it all on your platforms and all these different formats. That's exactly what these guys do.
It is. And the crazy thing is that you can do this just with video. You can just film video, selfies, client interviews, but podcasting is this ethereal thing to everybody. It's this thing out there. Joe Rogan has been doing it forever, and that's why he's super successful. Well, no, Joe Rogan's successful because he's Joe Rogan. Yeah. But he has an amazing personality. He remembers things. He has great conversations. He's definitely controversial with, and has his opinions. But the truth about podcasting is the fact that it is young. It is really, really young. And if you compare podcast numbers to YouTube numbers, it would be like getting in the game in like the first 2 years of YouTube. If you get into a podcast now, that's what it's like. It's minimal. But research shows that 60% of podcast listeners are consumers. So if you can bring in just your niche to that podcast because you're doing name or whatever, you're bringing in just consumers specifically to your niche. Ding, 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 marketing.
Yeah, guys, think of it. If you're listening, how many podcasts have you listened to where you bought something as a result of that? Whether it's whoever's putting it on and you're like, wow, these people really know what they talk about. I'm connecting. I want to hop on a call with them. Or maybe it's an ad they're running. Or maybe they have a guest on who has a book or has a service. You're like, I need that. How many of you? I have multiple times.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing the numbers. I'm crunching the numbers right now. I started a podcast specifically for business called Stories That Sell. And I used a very specific methodology to launch that. And a lot of people think that podcasting is all about downloads. Now, tons of downloads are awesome. You know what's even better than downloads is an audience that is perfect for you. I don't care if it's 5 people. That's 5 people. And so just from that, we've been able to make multiples of 10,000s of dollars. I don't know how to put this. I might sound like Biden, but and really mess up the numbers. But great figures from that system, and it doesn't have thousands. It has thousands of downloads, but it doesn't have like tens of thousands of downloads. And so I think a lot of people misunderstand what a podcast really like. Well, I can't get podcast famous. Well, who cares? That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for about getting in front of the right people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not even talking about the media machine, because once I started leveraging this Gary Vee, it's the reverse content pyramid. And at the top is a long form, and then you break it into a bunch of pieces, and then you put it out on all areas, right? So once I tapped into that, Scott, I still have content that was scheduled out to post over a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
I still have content coming out from like episode 20 of the Brotherhood of Fatherhood, and I'm at episode 130 something, because there's so much content, and now it's just like pieced all over the place. I mean, you were very early on my podcast, and I don't know how long it took to get content out about that, but who cares? You're still showing authority. There's still this organic thing going on, and it's relevant. It's very relevant to my audience.
Yeah, and it plays a few different things. So yeah, it can do so much work for you for all your content creation. Like one thing creates tons and tons of things. But also, yeah, it creates a level of authority, right? So if I can relate it to my experience with PT Legends, guys, it is a crowded space out there. Social media, ads every like 4 scrolls, like it is. And the stuff that hits is the stuff that we hate doing usually. You know what I mean? It's the hokey stuff. But like if people can just get to know me or my business and what I'm about, I know, right? That's what a podcast is. Mm-hmm. A lot of the times when I hop on a call with a gym owner or a fitness professional, and they have listened to my podcast, so they know who I am. They know who Dave is. They know our integrity. They have listened to a couple case studies when we've had our legends on here to explain their journey and how they've gone through it. Like, they'll know, like, and trust you. And you can't do that in any other format. So even if you don't, like Scott was saying, even if you don't have hundreds of downloads, but you've got somebody, like when somebody listens to it and they'll listen to maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 of you, they're going to become a customer.
Yeah.
100%. And the easiest conversations I had, they already know me. They already know what we're about. And it'll just funnel you the greatest people. It really, really, really will.
It really does. And expand. I mean, there's so many things I could point out, because I think if you're a gym owner or an online coach, you're going, okay, how does this relate to me? Mm-hmm. Well, there's so many ways, but here's another benefit of it is your network. The people I know now because of this that have been connected through this, the network is massive. But here's one. Let me run through a couple scenarios. So maybe you own a gym or you're an online coach, and you decide to interview another expert in the field. So if you own a gym and you have maybe an orthopedic surgeon or some sort of therapist in town that is a real nice compliment to you, not that you're out there breaking your bones, but active people do get hurt. So someone professional in the network, I want you to think through, okay, what good does it have to have them on the podcast? One, you're showing your authority in a content, and you're showing that you care about the things that matter. Two, what a lot of people don't think about is that person, let's say it's an orthopedic surgeon, he probably never got a marketing class. He probably doesn't know how to market well. But what's going to happen when he's highlighted on a podcast? He's going to tell his circle. Well, I hate to tell you this, but doctors and surgeons are excellent customers. So do you want those people in your circle? Do you want them? Is that orthopedic surgeon that's in your gym a great client? Does he ever have to worry about his card bouncing? Probably not. So, now you're organically kind of tapping into his network, because you're going to tag him in your posts. He's going to probably repost it because there's pride in being on a podcast. That's just one of the things. And you're doing it over and over and over again. Like if you create 7 pieces of content from one podcast and spread it out over 4 months, that's 4 touch points into his circle. And you're going to get sales from that.
You are.
An online coach, it's exactly the same thing. And even getting like your ideal client on the podcast, and big secret, this is what I do, is I interview people that would be a great client. Like, this person's doing well. They either have a podcast or they need a podcast. I'm going to get them on. I'm going to run a live ad at the beginning, They're going to sit and mull over that that time. And at the end, they're like, hey, let's talk about. And this has worked. And so there's so many angles you can do here outside of just the content machine. It's phenomenal. People don't even think of a sliver of the benefits of doing this.
It is. It's huge. It's huge. It's so many different ways. So like, yeah, if you're a gym owner, one, you're going to look like the utmost authority in your city or in your space, your neighborhood, however big that is. You're going to look huge just by having it, let alone like putting it on your website, let alone anybody listening to it. And then, yeah, you can have people on who would be great clients, just like Scott was saying, your local chiropractor, your local physical therapist, this, that. They're going to get to know you. They're going to learn about your services. And that's really all you need. Like you need know, like, and trust where people feel comfortable and they want to try it out. So you'll attract that. And you're also giving them a platform. You have a marketing platform that you're bringing them on to promote their stuff as well. And all their clients are going to hear it as well. It's such a big win-win-win all the way around. And not to mention, guys, this stuff is fun. It is never a drag doing a podcast. I do not like writing content. I do not like filming content. I don't know of many sick people who love that stuff. Okay. Few and far between. The people on TikTok, maybe. But most gym owners and online coaches I have met hate that copywriting and all that kind of stuff. This takes care of so much of it for you. So as a gym owner, yeah, you look like an authority in the space. You can attract clients and you can get to their audience as well. And if you're an online coach, it's massively beneficial too, because right, you've heard the episodes with Will Schiller where we brought him on. He's one of the best in the world at helping people develop an online business. And he's fantastic. Bolting on a podcast on top of that, because the one thing that you need to do is you really need to niche down and find who you want to work with, right? Your avatar. And the cool thing is you can create a podcast designed to speak exactly to them. And if you're an online coach, you don't have physical barriers. So you can really get this podcast out to that exact person that you're looking for. And you look like the utmost authority in the space, which is the entire goal of what you're trying to do.
Oh yeah. It's insane. You know what? I will tell you, there is a bad side to podcasting, and that's why we exist. The bad side is that if you want to do a podcast and you take it on yourself, you are buying yourself another job. Mm-hmm. You are stepping into, I was just talking to someone this morning. He's like, hey, should I do video on my podcast? And I said, absolutely. If you're not, you're missing a massive content, payload, like massive. And I said, and not to mention you get on YouTube with the SEO on there and I said, but do you have an extra 20 hours a week? Because he said, I don't know how to video edit. I have to go through and learn. I'm like, unless you have an extra 20 hours a week, don't do it. I said, but with our service, here's what we do. You record and download, and that's it. We're going to do the editing. This is my commercial. We're going to do the editing. We're going to create a video. We're going to do the posting. We're going to create like real type content, and we're going to post it for you. We're going to write your show notes, and we're going to do X. We're going to do Y. We're going to do Z. This is what I do for my podcast. I just record. Mm-hmm. I record and I make a few notes. I personally make a few notes, but don't even have to do that. I just record, and the rest is done for me.
And that's it, because guess what? You might get started and do an episode or two, and they're like, wow, that's a lot of work. I'm never doing that again.
Oh, just do a search on podcasts in Apple and just then go into each one and see where they fall. Most of them die between episode 3 and 30. I mean, I think there's 2 million podcasts right now, but they don't empty the trash. So anybody hasn't even had a podcast episode released in 2 years, their podcasts are still sitting there forever. Yeah. And that counts. So the number of active podcasts right now is so small. It is so small. It's crazy.
It is. Almost everybody gives up on it.
Oh man.
And it's because there's only so many things you can do. I know we have the best intentions as business owners, but it's always harder. It always takes more time than you budget for. Always, always, always. And then what happens is we just don't do it. I'm guilty of that. You guys know I'm busy. I've got 6 gyms. I'm running PT Legends. I just wrote a book. Right. I've got a podcast. If you think if I am taking this podcast and editing it myself, chopping it up. There's no way I have time on this earth to do anything like that. You've got to get leverage. And working with Scott has been one of the greatest business decisions I have ever made. Thank you, so again, I just want to thank you for everything, because it's the best thing ever.
Awesome. Appreciate it. And we really want to solve problems. It's really what it comes down to. And I feel like we've found several problems that we can solve and get people leverage. I mean, we have a guy, just to close this out, we have a guy who is an online only coach in the physical therapy. He went from having a physical gym, and he's like, I don't want to do that anymore. And I don't want to practice physical therapy in person. So I'm going to create an online physical therapy brand. He texted me the other day and he said, it's my soul. He started with us, the podcast. I walked him through it. I helped him. He goes, the podcast is my sole sales source. It's my sole marketing source, and it's paying all of my bills. So I'm like, yeah, that's solving a problem. Like, I mean, he's selling straight from the podcast. He's so niched, which is so incredibly important. So incredibly important. So it works, and it works really well. He's not the only story, but it's just the freshest one on my head. But it's
absolutely, there's so many. I'm another, right? I mean, this has attracted our dream clients, the ones who come in here and just crush it as part of PT Legends, bolting this stuff onto their gyms.
Yep.
But it's the long haul. You might not see anything this month. Right. And then that's when everybody gives up. So you just got to keep doing it. And I always look at, hey, what would it look like if this were easy? That's what you have to start with, because we always just, you know how we start new habits or start new things and like, whoa, this is way more. And then we just bail.
Yeah.
So begin with the end in mind. If I started a podcast, which will pay off, even if you're a physical location with one gym, or you're running an online thing, or you're both, you're a gym and you want to grow, not by multiple locations, but by bolting on, an online coaching business where you can make another 6 figures. Right.
Wow.
That's a lot of what we teach out of. That's why we brought on Will.
Yeah. It's
grow without the overhead. And this is how you do it. And you don't want to go do what Scott did initially and go out into the marketplace and get on interviews and hire 2 or 3 different VAs yourself. Gosh, no. It's a nightmare. I want nothing to do with that or managing more people. And that's it. He finds them, hires them, trains them, develops them, puts the systems in place, and just can plug and play everything. It's amazing.
That's right.
Which are light years ahead.
Yeah.
So anyways, Scott, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
You bet, man. And I want to drop with 2 things. One, if you want to do a podcast and you just don't know how, I have coaching. I can coach you through it. I'm good at this. I will tell you, I am good at this. Number 2, super congrats on your book. I'm so pumped, man. I ordered it from Amazon, came the next day. I was lucky enough to be with you when it launched. So I just wanted to make sure people knew, and I'm sure they do, but that is so cool, man.
Thanks, man. It's just awesome to see it in print. It's awesome to see how many people have already DM'd me, not that they bought it, but that they've already read it, and they read it in like a day.
That's awesome.
I'm like, wow,
it's good.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. So congratulations.
Yeah. And so you guys know too, Scott is my podcast coach. I would have never created a podcast, known how to do it, where to start, or even what to do if it weren't for him at all. It wouldn't exist. You wouldn't be listening to this at this moment. Just wouldn't have happened. So, Scott, how can they get a hold of you if they got questions for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We're in the process of building up the new webpage, but I do have a group on Facebook, which is called Launch Your Podcast for Profit. And I'm putting in free stuff in there. Like, people ask questions, I sit down and I record a video and I give them the answer. So even if you're not going to use me, you can go in there and just ask whatever you want, and I'll make content for it. So that's a great one. We also have Podcast Media Machine on Instagram. So you can DM me directly from there, or from Facebook, of course, which you can find me there. I post all sorts of stuff on podcasting. So
awesome. Fantastic. I'll make sure and get in that Facebook group as well.
Yeah, you should.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the PT Legends podcast, everyone. We will see you next week. Dave and myself, Scott, would love to thank you for tuning in and listening to the PT Legends podcast. You can get direct access to us by joining our free Facebook group. Go to www.facebook.com /groups/7-figure personal trainer. That's 7-figure personal trainer with the number 7. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you can keep on learning and keep on living. Finally, if you picked up any tips whatsoever in this episode that you found helpful, be sure to leave us a review and tell us what you like best about it. Can't wait to see you on the next episode.